You are standing in a war room somewhere in France. It is late November 1944. The walls are bare plaster or canvas stretched over wooden frames. A few light bulbs hang from wires. The air smells of cigarette smoke, coffee that has been sitting too long, and wet wool drying near a small stove. Outside, snow is beginning to fall. Inside, maps cover every available surface: tables, walls, clipboard stands. The maps are marked with grease pencil, blue arrows showing Allied positions, red symbols for known German units, shown dotted lines for supply routes and phase lines. General George S. Patton stands over the main map table. He is 59 years old, lean, restless, his hands moving over the paper as if he can will the units forward by touch alone. His voice is sharp, impatient. He wants to push east, deeper into Germany. He wants to end this war by Christmas. Around him, staff officers shuffle papers, take notes, glance at each other. They know the general's mood. Forward. Always forward. But in one corner of the room, a man sits quietly at a smaller desk covered with intelligence reports, typed summaries, prisoner interrogation transcripts, aerial reconnaissance photos, unit identification logs. His name is Colonel Oscar W. Koch. He is Patton's G-2, his chief intelligence officer. He is methodical, careful, almost invisible compared to the larger-than-life general. He wears glasses. His voice is calm. He does not shout. And right now, looking at the reports in front of him, he is about to say something nobody in the room wants to hear. He clears his throat and stands. Patton looks up. "Sir," Koch says quietly, "I believe the Germans are preparing a major counter-offensive, possibly through the Ardennes, soon." The room goes still. Someone laughs, short and uncomfortable. Another officer shakes his head. Everyone knows the war is almost over. Germany is beaten. Hitler is running out of fuel, men, tanks. The idea of a large-scale German attack in winter through the Ardennes forest, held by tired American units on rest, seems absurd. But Patton does not laugh. He looks at Koch. He asks questions. He listens. And then he makes a decision that will save thousands of lives. How do you win a war where the loudest man in the room listens to the quietest voice and trusts him when nobody else does? George S. Patton was born to be loud. From childhood, he was fascinated by military history, glory, and the idea of combat as a test of character. He attended West Point. He competed in the 1912 Olympics. He served under Pershing in World War I, commanding tanks, new machines that combined speed and firepower in a way that thrilled him. Between the wars, he studied. He read ancient and modern military theory. He wrote articles. He believed deeply that war was about movement, aggression, shock. That hesitation killed more men than boldness ever did. By the time World War II began, Patton was already known: brilliant, difficult, profane, uncompromising. A man who believed that a commander's job was to drive his soldiers forward faster than the enemy could react. Oscar Koch was born to be quiet. He did not seek the spotlight. He joined the army and became an intelligence officer, a profession that, in those years, was often overlooked, sometimes mocked. Intelligence work was paperwork, analysis, guessing. It was not glory. It was not medals. But Koch was very good at it. He learned to read reports not for what they said on the surface, but for what they revealed when you put 10, 20, 50 pieces together. He learned to distrust wishful thinking. He learned that the most dangerous enemy is the one you decide cannot hurt you. In North Africa, then Sicily, then France, Koch became Patton's G2, and over time, these two men, opposites in almost every way, formed a bond. Patton trusted Koch because Koch did not tell him what he wanted to hear. He told him what the evidence showed. And Koch trusted Patton because, unlike many generals who ignored uncomfortable intelligence, Patton listened and acted. It was a partnership that, by late 1944, would be tested in a way neither of them expected. The summer of 1944 was a season of triumph. After the breakout from Normandy in late July, Operation Cobra, Patton's Third Army exploded across France. Town after town liberated, German units retreating, scattered, disorganized, fuel dumps captured, prisoners taken by the thousands. Patton drove his divisions hard. They covered distances in days that in World War I had taken months. The newspapers loved him. He became the face of American armored warfare, aggressive, profane, unstoppable, and as the autumn turned to winter and Third Army neared the German border, a belief settled over the Allied high command like fog. The war is almost over. Germany is out of fuel. Her armies are broken. Hitler is finished. All that remains is to grind forward, occupy territory, accept surrender. At Supreme Headquarters, intelligence officers produce estimates showing that Germany has little capacity for large offensive operations. The mood is cautious optimism, or, in some corners, simple exhaustion and the hope that Christmas will bring peace. But in Third Army headquarters, Koch is uneasy. He sits at his desk long after the evening briefings, going through stacks of reports. Prisoner interrogations mention new units, divisions that, according to official records, should not exist or should be far away. Radio intercepts show increased German signals traffic in areas that had been quiet. Aerial reconnaissance photos show trains moving west, supply dumps being built, roads repaired in sectors where no major German force is supposed to be operating. Logistics reports hint at fuel and ammunition stockpiling near the Ardennes, a forested, hilly region on the border between Belgium and Germany, where the American line is held thinly by units recovering from earlier fighting. None of this, on its own, is definitive. But Koch has learned to see patterns. He pulls out a map and marks every unit movement, every sighting, every logistics note, and slowly, over days, a picture forms. The Germans are not collapsing. They are regrouping. They are moving armor, infantry, artillery, quietly, carefully, into position opposite the Ardennes. Koch's training tells him to assess enemy capabilities, not just intentions. The question is not, will Hitler try something crazy? The question is, can he? And the answer, Koch realizes, is yes. Hitler can gather enough force for one last desperate blow. A winter offensive aimed at splitting the Allied armies, recapturing vital ground, maybe even driving to the coast. It is a gamble born of desperation. But desperate men are the most dangerous. Koch finishes his analysis. He prepares his briefing. And he walks into Patton's office knowing that what he is about to say will sound, to almost everyone, like paranoia. Patton listens. He does not interrupt. He does not dismiss. He leans forward, eyes on the map as Koch walks him through the indicators, the missing divisions, the logistical buildup, the unnatural quiet on parts of the front. When Koch finishes, Patton asks questions. How sure are you? Koch does not lie. I cannot be certain, but the capability is there, and the conditions favor it. Surprise, whether that grounds our air support, a weak section of our line. Patton nods slowly. Other officers in the room shift uncomfortably. One suggests that Koch may be overinterpreting limited data. Another points out that higher headquarters does not share this assessment. Patton raises a hand for silence. He looks at Koch. If you're right and we do nothing, we lose men. If you're wrong and we prepare, we lose some time and effort. He makes his decision. Draw up contingency plans. If the Germans hit the Ardennes, I want Third Army ready to pivot north and hit them in the flank, not in a week, in days, in hours if we can. The staff stares. Turn an entire army 90 degrees in winter on short notice based on the possibility of an attack most people think is unlikely? But Patton's tone leaves no room for argument. Get it done. And so, in the days that follow, staff officers at Third Army headquarters work late into the night. They draft movement orders. They calculate fuel requirements, supply routes, assembly areas. They redraw maps with arrows pointing north instead of east. Most of them think this will never be used, that it is just another example of Patton's aggressive imagination. But the plans are ready, and the clock is ticking. December 16th, 1944, just before dawn. In the Ardennes forest, along an 80-mile front, German artillery opens fire. Thousands of shells fall on American positions. In the darkness and fog, German infantry and armored columns surge forward. They hit thinly held sections of the line. Units are overrun. Communications are cut. Chaos spreads. By midday, reports flood into Allied headquarters. Massive German attack, multiple breakthroughs, American units falling back or surrounded. At Supreme Headquarters, the shock is profound. This was not supposed to happen. Intelligence estimates said Germany lacked the capability, but here it is, a full-scale winter offensive, the largest German attack in the West since 1940. Historians will later call it an intelligence failure. But at Third Army headquarters, there is no shock. Patton looks at Koch. There is no triumph in the look, no I told you so. Only grim recognition. Koch was right. Within hours, Patton is on the phone with higher command. He offers to disengage from his current positions and strike north into the German flank. The response is skeptical. How soon can you move? Patton's answer stuns them. 48 hours, 3 divisions. It sounds impossible. Armies do not turn on a dime. Logistics, coordination, weather, these things take time. But Patton's staff already has the plans. The fuel is allocated, the routes are mapped, the orders are drafted. All they have to do is issue them. And so, in the bitter cold of December, as snow falls and roads turn to ice, the Third Army begins to move. Imagine you are a soldier in one of those divisions. You have been fighting for weeks, maybe months. You are exhausted. Your unit has taken casualties. You are looking forward to a few days of rest, hot food, maybe mail from home. Then, in the middle of the night, orders come down. Pack up, move out, head north. No explanation, just go. You climb into the back of a truck. The canvas cover does little to keep out the wind. Your breath fogs in the freezing air. The roads are slick with ice and snow. Convoys stretch for miles, headlights blacked out, moving in the dark. You do not know where you are going or why. You only know that somewhere ahead, men are in trouble. Drivers push their vehicles to the limit. Tanks slide on icy roads. Supply trucks break down and are pushed off to the side. Soldiers huddle together for warmth. It is brutal. It is exhausting. But it works. In less than 3 days, Patton's Third Army covers over 100 miles, pivots from an eastward attack to a northward relief operation, and begins hitting the southern flank of the German offensive. On December 26, the lead elements of Third Army break through to Bastogne, relieving the encircled American paratroopers who have held the town against overwhelming odds. The German offensive, which at its peak created a bulge 50 miles deep into Allied lines, begins to collapse under pressure from the north, south, and west. By late January, the bulge is erased. The Germans have lost tanks, men, fuel they can never replace. The war will continue for a few more bloody months, but the outcome is no longer in doubt. And thousands of American soldiers, men who were surrounded, outnumbered, freezing in foxholes, owe their survival not only to Patton's speed and aggression, but to one quiet intelligence officer who saw the storm coming and refused to look away. Oscar Koch does not appear in the photographs of the Bastogne relief. He does not give press conferences. His name does not appear in the headlines. He is back at Third Army headquarters, in the same small corner, updating maps, reading reports, tracking the shrinking red symbols that represent German units. After the war, when historians write about the Battle of the Bulge, many call it an intelligence failure. They ask, how did the Allies miss the signs? Koch knows the answer. The signs were there, the information existed. The failure was not in collection, it was in evaluation, in belief, in the courage to act on an uncomfortable truth. In the late 1960s, Koch works with journalist Robert Allen to write a book, G-2, Intelligence for Patton. In it, he lays out his methods, his philosophy, and his account of the weeks before the Bulge. He is sometimes called Patton's Oracle, the man who saw the future when others were blind. But Koch does not see himself as a prophet. He sees himself as someone who did his job, looked at the evidence, judged enemy capabilities honestly, and warned the people who needed to know. The tragedy, he reflects quietly in later years, is not that intelligence officers failed to see the German buildup. It is that so few commanders were willing to listen. Patton was the exception. After the war, Patton's legend only grows. The aggressive general who raced across Europe, who slapped soldiers, who gave profane speeches, who believed in reincarnation and past lives as a warrior. He dies in December 1945 in a car accident in Germany, just months after the war ends. He is buried among his soldiers. Koch lives a quieter life. He retires, writes, reflects. He is honored by those who understand intelligence work, but he remains largely unknown to the public. And yet, in the story of the Battle of the Bulge, these two men are inseparable. Patton's boldness meant nothing without Koch's foresight. Koch's analysis meant nothing without a commander willing to trust it and act. Together they saved lives. Now let me ask you a question. In every life, yours, mine, anyone's, there are two kinds of people. There are the ones who want to charge ahead, who believe in momentum, who hate hesitation and doubt. They are the Pattons, loud, confident, impatient with delay. And there are the ones who sit in the corner, who read the reports everyone else ignores, who see patterns, who quietly say, "Wait, something is wrong. We need to turn around." Wars are won or lost depending on whether the loud man in the room ever listens to the quiet one. Companies rise or collapse based on whether the executive hears the analyst who says, "The numbers don't add up." Families survive or fracture based on whether someone listens when a voice says, "We need to talk about what we're not talking about." In your world, who is your Koch? The person who sees what you do not want to see? And are you Patton only when it feels good, when the advice fits your plan, or also when it means stopping, turning your whole army around, and admitting that the comfortable story is wrong? Because the lesson of Patton and Koch is not just about tanks and maps. It is about trust. It is about the moral courage to speak an uncomfortable truth and the even greater courage to listen to it and act. Thousands of men walked out of the Ardennes in January 1945 because one general listened to one intelligence officer. How many people, in how many situations, have died or suffered because the person in charge refused to believe the quiet voice saying, "Danger is coming"? This is not ancient history. This is every boardroom, every family, every moment when someone has information that could save lives or futures. And the question is whether anyone will listen before it is too late. George Patton was a great general, but his greatest act may not have been a battle. It may have been the moment he looked at a quiet man with a stack of reports and said, "I believe you. Let's prepare." And Oscar Koch's legacy is not in the headlines or the monuments. It is in the thousands of men who came home, who grew old, who had children and grandchildren. Because one analyst refused to tell his commander what he wanted to hear, and instead told him what he needed to know. That is the weight of responsibility. That is the cost of courage. And that is the question this story leaves you with, long after the credits roll. When the quiet voice speaks in your life, will you listen, or will you wait until the storm is already here?